Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm John Martin, aka the StatKing, and I'm here to provide you with a true heel review of WWE Starrcade, which was a network event. It's not listed under pay-per-view section. You have to look in network specials or in-ring content to find it. That happened on December 1st in Duluth, Georgia, the hometown of Scott Hall. So there are some definite WCW connections to what happened last night, to where they had it, the location, and that started off as soon as the event itself started. We started off with Kevin Owens, who came out for an episode of the KO segment. He got a great reaction. It was kind of muted, but the announcer was also a bit muted, so I think there were some mic issues. And they started off with a little bit of Flair, because his guest for the KO show was none other than Ric Flair. And when I saw that they were going to have Flair out, I said, let's pray he's soberish. We all know that Flair can shoot from the handle a bit, and you never know what can happen. But Flair actually was fairly sober. He did trip over some words, as is his nature now at this stage of his life. But I have to say, even slowing down the way he has due to his health issues and just his age, he still can command a room with his presence. He does trip over his words, but it's fine because you still want to hear what he has to say. Tonight he was talking about the meaning of Starrcade and the history of the event and all the performers in the back. And he put over a lot of the performers, and he was putting over Kevin Owens. And when they were finished, he and Kevin tried to get the crowd together to do one big, whole arena woo. But Gallows and Anderson come out. Two members of the OC come out to cut them off. Anderson comes up with the bright idea, because they're all friends with the monkeys in the production truck, that the rest of the show is just going to be OC highlights, which doesn't go over too well with the crowd, as you might expect. But luckily, Street Profits, Dawkins and Ford, are out to make the save. There's a nice cheap pop by the Street Profits mentioning where they are, and this quickly breaks down into a match between the two, and Ric Flair stays ringside. 2 segments in, and whoever booked the show has kept the energy going. KO is a great kickoff, but then you add Ric Flair, that's definitely going to keep the crowd going. And now you have Street Profits coming out to have a match with OC Street Profits, who can definitely get a crowd going, and if the crowd is already up there, they know how to keep that momentum carrying. You also have to remember that this crowd, while we, the viewing audience at home, are seeing this and thinking this is maybe how the show is starting, for the people in the arena, they've already seen Seth Rollins versus Eric Rowan and Shinsuke Nakamura defending the Intercontinental Championship against The Miz. So for them, they are actually 4 segments in. There's a really solid back-and-forth match between the OC and Street Profits. Street Profits pick up the win. They flash really well in the ring, and they have great chemistry as a team. The match wasn't something to write home about, but they kept the crowd going for the match, and that's really all you can ask for. With the OC's loss, I did a little bit of digging to figure out what the stats are. And it's a friendly reminder that as a tag team, Gallows and Anderson have 2 wins as a team, the 2 of them, in the past year. Once, when they won the Raw Tag Team Championships during a triple threat with the Revival and the Usos on July 29th, and then once at Crown Jewel on October 31st. That really does sound like they are the best tag team in the world. Thank God that teaming up with AJ has been more successful in 6-man tags. Starrcade moves swiftly onwards, so will we. Banks and Bayley are backstage. There's a good backstage heat segment talking about how they don't want to be in this backwards town. I don't know if you know, I also did a little bit of research. Duluth, Georgia, it's a suburb of Atlanta. It has about 26,000 people. That's the population estimate. The arena can hold 13,000 people. So maybe half the town was there. I'm not sure. But maybe people drove in. But either way, Bayley and Sasha Banks do not want to be in Georgia for any longer than they absolutely have to. There's a funny little bit about Banks from winning and being double champs, but she has 0 titles right now, so she would just be 1-time champ. Maybe she's just sucking up to Bayley, I don't know. But the women's tag title championship match is next. This is between the Kabuki Warriors of Asuka and Kairi Sane, Bliss Cross Applesauce, which is a really great name. But it's Nikki Cross and Alexa Bliss. It's got the Raw Women's Champion, Becky Lynch, teaming with Charlotte Flair. And it has the aforementioned Banks and Bayley, who are the SmackDown Women's Champion. So you have a possibility where either Becky or Bayley could become double champs. So the match starts with a bit of tagging in and out, showcasing the Fatal 4-Way aspect. Asuka takes up a lot of the in-ring time to start. There's a very sparing use of Bliss. Bliss is back, fresh from recovering from a shoulder injury. I think this is her second, maybe third match back, if you include house shows. But this, I think, is her first televised match back. So they are kind of trying to keep her fresh, and there's a lot of people coming in and out. There are pops for all the names you'd expect. Biggest pop would probably be the first time Becky comes in. We're getting some good matchups, though. Like, you're seeing different individual potential singles matches break out throughout the match. One thing I would definitely be interested in seeing down the road, I mean, both are heels right now, but would definitely be like a face Kairi Sane versus a heel Charlotte Flair. You could have the babyface get a little too into the moment. There's an insane elbow. Charlotte rolls out of the way, natural selection, or even into a figure eight, something like that. Like that would be, I could see something like that happen. The two of them look like they could be really good in the ring together. But then which was kind of a surprise considering how they had been hiding her, in a sense, earlier. Bliss takes over as the main person in the ring, allowing others from different teams to tag in and out. Maybe they're trying to show that her shoulder is good to go. She's not taking too much offense, though. It's not really rest holdish like, but it's more just targeting other aspects than taking shoulder hits. She does take a corner meteora from Banks that I was like, okay, that shoulder has to be good at that point. There was a weird moment for the WWE Classic hot tag moment. In the top left corner is Cross and Bliss. Top right corner is Becky, Charlotte. Bottom right corner is Bayley, Banks, and then bottom left corner is Asuka, Kairi. Asuka's looking for Kairi to tag. Bliss is, for some reason, trying to go to the corner where Becky is, which would be fine, but Nikki is up on the apron. She could tag in her partner. Either way, she does make the tag to Becky. Becky comes in and starts clearing house. The match ends up breaking down with people entering the ring to hit moves, and then the next person comes in to hit a move on the survivor of the previous exchange. We did see something like this in the Survivor Series matches. And the finish is Nikki Cross gets caught in the Asuka lock, taps out, Kabuki Warriors retain. Overall, it's not a bad match. Everyone in the match got a little bit of offense. No one's really marginalized, and the stars looked like the stars. So we're moving now to the main event of Starrcade. The main event of Starrcade on paper is a last man standing match between Rusev and Bobby Lashley. Yes, this is the culmination of what's been going on Monday Night Raw. There have been restraining orders. There have been brawls. There have been just really interesting choices of words, double entendres, etc. And now we're going to see what happens when the two of them finally get to clash. I'm going to start this by saying that this is a mess, and I haven't even seen people come out yet. The way I look at pay-per-views is on a tier system. This show, Starrcade, is at the bottom of whatever that tier system might be. This is a house show that they're televising and fancied up. Somebody in WWE Creative or their graphics department spent an hour or so making some graphics for them to show up on the screen. WWE ordered a ring apron. That's about it. They've positioned this Lashley and Rusev story to be an important story, but they're going to give them a match on what is essentially a C-level pay-per-view. And it's only a pay-per-view because you have to be a subscriber to the network in order to get it. Luckily, the main event doesn't happen. Lana explains that she filed a new TRO, temporary restraining order, in a Georgia court and that Rusev won't show up. This makes zero sense, but I'm going to hold off on that and tell you what happens next. What happens next is that Kevin Owens come out to nicely bookend the televised portion of Starrcade. After a back and forth, he says that he'll take Rusev's place. They're going to have a singles match, no stipulation. This is actually a pretty good match. KO is someone who can go in the ring. We all know that. And surprisingly, it seems as though this is going to be a match where Lashley really wants to put his best foot forward. He's in the main event of the night, but he does have what it takes to keep up with a good opponent, and he showcases that. They have a great match. It's on paper, you're thinking, okay, it's going to be it is what it is, but they do more than what you are expecting, and at the finish shows Rusev coming out of the crowd and causing a DQ. He and Lashley brawl all over the arena. It's mainly Rusev on the offensive. He hits him with a garbage can at one point. He's wearing a great shirt, I have to say, of a cartoon Bob Ross painting, and Bob Ross is painting a stick figure wrestler. He's going to tear the shirt off and throw it in the crowd, so I hope he's got more, because I want to know where he got that shirt from. But the night, at least for us, ends with Rusev standing tall, and Lana and Rusev are retreating to the back. There's going to be a few more matches that are only for the crowd. There's, I think, a Randy Orton AJ Styles match, but I'm interested to see what happened with that. But anyway, I want to talk a little bit about this main event because it doesn't really make sense. Lana wouldn't need to file a new restraining order. Any restraining order, any temporary restraining order, TRO, that you file, it's valid for enforcement in any other state in the United States. She filed it in Illinois, but it's still valid in Georgia due to the full faith and credit clause of the United States Constitution. So this doesn't make sense. She didn't need to file a new one. I mean, a sheriff's department's going to honor the TRO as long as she can prove it was validly filed, which she can because she would have the original court order. Also, it's a restraining order against Rusev for her, not Lashley. The ref could toss Lana from the ring or toss her from the arena. WWE management could also have said prior to this that she was barred from the arena. They're the ones booking the match. It's not as though they don't know that all these past weeks there have been issues between Lana, Rusev, and Lashley, and that on Raw she reveals that there's a restraining order and that Rusev can't be near her. Now, granted, she's really fuzzy on the particulars of how close he can come to her. However, I would assume that WWE's legal department would have read the document and would know what had happened. So they could easily have barred her from the arena, and so we could have had this match. There was no reason for Kevin to have endured any of the pain and suffering that he endured, but all's well that ends well because Rusev ends up on top, though technically now he's violated a court order twice, and that could have some horrible legal ramifications. Both a kendo stick and a chairs were used during the post-match brawl. I think if we get a chairs match out of this at TLC, maybe give it about 12, 14 minutes, I think we'll have gotten everything out of this feud that we need. Maybe something between the two of them during the Rumble itself that causes some eliminations. Maybe, Lashley eliminates Rusev after Rusev eliminates him, and, we can move them both onto other things. Overall, I'd give the show about a 3.5 out of 5. There are 3 matches. It's 1 hour, about hour, 13 minutes. There's solid in-ring work that pushes forward a bit of storylines. They're positioning Kevin Owens as a big face. Asuka intentionally tags in so that she can face Charlotte ahead of Raw and ahead of what we all believe is happening at TLC, which is Charlotte and Becky versus Kabuki Warriors for the tag titles. And Lashley and Rusev moves forward. So they did actually accomplish a lot in an hour, despite what I said before about it being a C-level pay-per-view. So I have to give them some props for that. Match of the night is actually the match that we didn't know was going to happen. It was actually KO and Lashley to me. The women's tag match was a little too chaotic to fully develop. There were 8 women involved, tags coming in and out. So to me, KO versus Lashley does edge it out, but that's not to take anything away from Street Profits versus OC. That's a nice, solid match. You got Ric Flair there at ringside. You got the crowd amped and into it. Montez Ford doing what he does. So overall, 3.5 out of 5. And thank you guys for watching the Starrcade review.